but it was really no really purpose. You know, it wasn't really any, hey, okay, what are you in my life for? What am I bringing you into my situation for outside of me needing an agent and you being one? You know, so that's how I started defining myself. I said, look, if they can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing all these short, white guys coming into my house and didn't see anybody that looked like me. Therefore, I didn't really think they could represent me because they, and they didn't talk like me. They didn't identify with my single parent household, what I was going through. Like everybody knew they could relate to my excitement of becoming a pro athlete, but they couldn't relate to my fears of not making it because they've never been in those shoes. So
what's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You, with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, like I've mentioned before, 2021, we are really kicking the game up a notch, man. And we're really bringing brothers on that truly exemplify excellence in what they do, not just in what they do from work or business, but also what they do in regards to life, because we got to start having examples of social proof of what's possible out there. So, brothers, the guy that I have on today literally lives all of that. And the brother that I have is a husband. He's a father. He's also a powerful sports agent and is head of football with Klutch Sports. Now, he also went to Georgia Tech, and he also started from Moss Point, Mississippi. So the brother that I have on today with Black Fathers Now is none other than Damarius Bilbo. Fellas in the Black Fathers Now family, let's welcome Damarius Bilbo to the show today. What's up, my man?
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
Great, man. I'm great. Just trying to start 2021 off right, like everybody else.
Come on. We got to, man. I try, to me, it's not even about the year. It's about the moment. People say like it's one day at a time. I'm more so like, dude, it's one moment at a time, because sometimes a day is too much.
Yeah, you're right, man. So much can change in a matter of hours and minutes. People have lost lives and, become overnight sensations and all of that stuff. Good and bad can happen in a matter of minutes. So you're right. I need to take that approach.
That's it. It's moment to moment, brother. And so before we jump into your journey and before we jump into your story, I always have the brothers give shout outs, because who are we without the folks that basically laid the groundwork or help us to be who we are? So before we get into your story, man, give us a few shout outs of those folks who basically are the wind beneath your wings, who maybe laid the groundwork for you or who allow you to be the brother that you are today.
I mean, that's every man and woman that, lives life with a purpose and, strives to serve God and just have influence and effect over people. Not no one particular person, because everyone I feel I've come in contact with or even haven't come in contact with, I've either learned something or gained something from. So, just people in general. We all were created by the same God for the same purpose, to serve. And anybody who is a servant, anybody who is, influential and effective to anybody that they come in contact with. So, that's more on the overall shout out. But, obviously my team at Klutch, my partner, Rich Paul, just for the perfect example he sets for us Black men in this industry. Obviously my family, my wife, my son and my daughter, for, their support in terms of just allowing me to do the job that I do, because every time I bring on a new client, it's like we get a new family member. My mother, for, single mother, raising me and allowing me to, never define myself as, simply as an athlete or a football or baseball player, but as a professional, is always carrying that with me. So tons of people, like I said, pretty much everyone I've come in contact with, I've learned something from, either good or bad, what to do and what not to do. So I think the ones for both, I think everybody for both of those lessons.
Man, dude, you said so much there. And, when you were speaking, how you started with I want to thank every interaction basically that I've had, because there's a lesson to be had in that particular interaction. And it makes me go back to the concept of sometimes you're entertaining angels, and we don't need to put people down, nor do we need to put people on pedestals, no matter what their position in life is, because at the end of the day, we're all people and we're all here for a reason. And that person might just be here to give you a cup of water, but who knows whether or not that cup of water is needed for you to survive. You know, it's just like, we value everybody, and when you can get to the point in which you value everyone, you see the value that everybody brings, regardless of their position or status in life, you're winning. And that's how this thing's designed.
That is the definition of a servant mentality. You know, we were all put here to serve. You know, like no one is greater than the next. So when you humble yourself, and you know, like you said, whether it's a cup of water, whether it's a ride to the store, or you know, somebody standing in the grocery line in front of you that may need help, you have to put yourself in a servant mind. And then I think when you approach life like that, you'll get more than you give. You know, people don't even see it like that. Like, you know, I think I've been blessed, you know, beyond my wildest dreams, because I was always serving. I was always looking for someone to help, and in the midst of me helping, I was receiving a lot more. You know, so yeah, that's kind of how I try to approach my days.
You know, it's interesting to hear you lay it out like that, because, you know, you're also coming from the place of us having a servant heart or a servant mentality, but you're serving not with the goal of getting something in return. You just realize that that's what you're here to do. And now the fringe benefit of it is you do get things in return. And I think that's an extremely valuable gem that the brothers need to pay attention to, because a lot of times we give to get. And that's not serving. That's a transaction. You know what I'm saying? It's totally different. That's a transaction. When you're serving to serve, because you know you're supposed to do that, right? And you'll get on the back end, but you're serving because that's what you're called to do. Fellas, pay attention to that, man. He dropped the gem. It was embedded in what he said. He dropped the gem there. Good stuff. And so thinking about the gym and and you mentioned like your mom, and you mentioned growing up and all, you came from Moss Point, Mississippi. You eventually got Georgia Tech. And again, now you're head of football with Klutch Sports. Take us back, man. Like, and you mentioned your mom never allowed you to just be viewed as an athlete and all of that. Talk to us a little bit about some of these inspirations and all, which kind of led you to where you are today, brother.
Oh man, where do I start? You know, just really played sports to stay out of trouble. You know, it was a situation where a single parent household. So mom was working and providing. I had an older sister, a younger brother. We were all 2 years apart. So sports was a way to just kind of, you know, stay out of trouble, you know, gain relationships, friendships, and, you know, just find a passion. You know, when you're in the South, you know, it's really throughout the week, it's really school, you know, and then sports, and on the weekend is, you know, grandma house and Bobby Jones gospel and Muddy Waters and BB King. That's what it is.
You didn't say Bobby Jones gospel, did you?
Gospel, man.
BET.
Minnie and Mississippi Freddie McDowell, you know, all those people. So that's what I kind of grew up on. So, you know, it was a situation where, you know, being raised by women, you know, you really didn't have a lot of male influence, you know, and you just always was trying to find your way. And, sports kind of gave me an identity, because obviously it gave me, you know, people to look up to. It gave me people to aspire to be. You know, I grew up watching the Ken Griffey Jr.'s, the primetime Deion Sanders, and I was a better baseball player than football player. But again, not having real male influence, I didn't know the business side of it. So by the time I got to, you know, my later years, I only started playing football because I found out they didn't give full scholarships in baseball.
Oh,
yeah. So I kind of panicked because I was so good at football. I mean, so good at baseball, and football was kind of like, it was there, you know, just to kind of pass time. But my sport was always baseball. And the pro scouts start reaching out to me 10th, 11th grade. And I'm like, man, I can go pro. And they're like, yeah, well, if you do go to college, it's partial scholarship, you know. And I'm like, partial? I can't do nothing partial.
I need full.
Full. You know, so I went out and ended up my 11th grade year. I started half the year at quarterback, took over my senior year, and ended up winning National Player of the Year, Dick Bucket's National Player of the Year. I was Gatorade Player of the Year, won all the awards, accolades, was getting lettered by every university in the country from USC to Tennessee to LSU where, Nick Saban was there. And, you start seeing these guys pop up at your school, Jimbo Fisher, head coach of Texas A&M now, but him and Nick Saban coming to my career. Philip Farmer, who was over at Tennessee at the time. You getting calls from T. Martin, who just won the national championship. It blew me away. So, it really happened fast. I was always prepared for, what happened if it didn't happen, but I don't think I was really prepared for when it did happen. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. See, that's the interesting thing. I heard somebody talk about a lot of times we don't fear failure. At times we fear success, right? And you just laid out something where it's like, okay, I'm prepared for it, not working. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't necessarily prepared for if this thing actually catches. And I really basically hit gold. And now I'm on everybody's tongue. I'm the this, I'm the that. I'm not prepared to handle that. Right. Like, how did you in that specific moment? We'll get back to the nexus of your story, but how did you in that moment get to a point in which you handled all of that attention all of a sudden?
Well, it was a combination of my mom, just the way she, had us just look at life. Like I had players before me at my high school that, they got recruited. They went to Mississippi State, Kevin Fant. We had some of the best players that nobody even heard of. Guys were potentially nationally ranked players, but whether it was the grades that didn't pan out for them or just being on the small town, Mall Point, not really having that, access to the camps and things like that. So she's always had me just approach life with a humble eye and just say, it's by the grace of God that you're here and he's allowing all this to happen. So, why pat yourself on the back? Just give it all to him and it'll pan out. So although I wasn't prepared for it to happen that quickly, we won the state championship and, actually went to the state championship in baseball. And so it was every single day pretty much of my senior year of high school. I was getting a phone call or a letter from some university or some school. So obviously, you had to narrow it down. And, we always led with education. A 3.8, 4.0 student all through school. And, we went to these schools and took these visits, and my mom was always, really paying attention to who was stressing education. And when we went to our visit, we weren't just trying to meet football coaches. We was meeting dean of students, we was meeting the head of departments, things like that on our visit. Because again, we were always prepared for what if it doesn't work.
There you go.
Football is here, but why are we really here? And that's something I kind of put into more and more of my athletes now is that, when you're in college, you're a student athlete. Student comes before athlete for a reason. And when you go to the next level, if you're blessed to become a professional athlete, both of those terms, student athlete and professional athlete will fall off. You can't be an athlete forever.
Whoa.
So
Hold on. You said athlete will fall off. So whether you're a student athlete or a professional athlete
will fall off. It's going on. But you're left with student and you're left with professional. Student is one who educates, one who is knowledgeable, one who learns. And then professional, what is your business? What is your business acumen? What do you understand in terms of life? Because the same billionaires that are flooding these, guys' bank accounts with millions and millions, the Arthur Blanks, the Robert Krafts and the Jerry Jones, these are guys who they didn't play in the NFL that long. I think Jerry Jones did have a football career at Arkansas, but these weren't NFL superstars, but they understood professional, business, and they were students that gained that knowledge of business. That's why they were successful enough to own these football teams. So it's things like that I always try to break down the message within the situation. Like there's always a message. There's always something to pay attention to. And that's kind of how I approach, this representation of athletes and, even from the way I define myself. So, it happened because I had a definition for myself. If I was just calling myself a football player, I would have went to the best football school. I could have went to the best football school. And I think at the time when I was coming out, Florida State was the best football school. I think Miami's, though they were at the top in the early 2000s. Tennessee had just won a national championship, I think in 99, 2000, something like that.
Yeah, 98, 99.
Yeah, so I was getting recruited by I was a top quarterback prospect, but I went to Georgia Tech for a multitude of reasons because I defined myself first, as a student, then as an athlete. So I was looking for the educational component. And I was like, African-American male with the Georgia Tech degree, what does that look like?
Ooh.
And then I defined what the athlete looked like. In Georgia Tech, we were ranked back in the early 2000s with George O'Leary. We were top 15 team in the country, but I felt I got the best of both worlds, not just from an educational standpoint, but from an environmental standpoint. Being in Atlanta, being in a city where, small town Mississippi, and being on Georgia Tech campus, it was a melting pot. It was different.
Yes.
It looked like the world would look,
Yes.
And
all over. Yes.
All over. You walk in the classroom, sometimes you may be the only African American. You know what I'm saying? And you have to, you have to deal with people that think this way and people that grew up this way and people that, are not from where you're from. So it gets you out of that comfort zone very, very quick. And that's why I chose to go to Georgia Tech, and the rest was pretty much the rest was pretty much a journey. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Coming in pretty much a journey in terms of. Are we still connected?
Yeah, we're still connected. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much a journey in terms of just how I navigated coming from small town Mississippi to now Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, I think I saw more people on my campus than I saw in my whole city.
That's real. Look, and Tech wasn't even a huge campus at the time we were there. I think Tech was probably like 14,000 students, maybe. So like you mentioned, you had the international component. And it's funny, you jogged my memory. I can remember at Tech, I had roommates from Georgia, from different parts of the country, but I had a roommate who was a first generation. His parents are from India. I had a roommate that was from Iraq. I had a roommate that was from France. I had roommates from all different racial backgrounds. And these are all this is my personal experience at Georgia Tech. So to your point, being a representation of the world was something that I valued in my Tech experience. But you also mentioned something when you were talking about the environment and the environmental factors that come into play in regards to making your decision. And it's interesting because your mom laid this groundwork that basically set you up to be more than an athlete. Right. And what's so cool about that, this environmental thing comes into play. I interviewed a brother a couple months back, and he runs a venture capital fund out of the Bay Area called Base Ventures. His name is Eric Moore. And one of the things he talked about was when he got started, before he started his venture capital fund, one of the biggest things that he valued was being in target rich environments. And when you're talking, I thought back to this brother who runs a venture capital fund about being in a target rich environment. You were doing so in regards to how you placed yourself, simply on a college campus, but that was a target rich environment for you to grow from, for you to learn from, but then for you to also expand your horizons.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have this whole concept that football was a 4-year decision, but the university was a 40-year decision.
Ooh, I like that.
I knew that, having a degree is one thing, but having a degree that meant something, and not to put down any other university, but some guys make decisions based on going pro, and some guys, make the decision on being a professional. Either way, you have to kind of understand what's for you. I could have been just as successful at Tennessee, at Alabama, LSU, but I wanted the challenge, and again, I wanted the environment. Knoxville didn't look like Atlanta. Baton Rouge didn't look like Atlanta. Tuscaloosa didn't look like Atlanta. And I got the best of both worlds because I had the environment of Georgia Tech, but I also had the culture component being with Spelman and Morehouse and Clark. At the time, Morris Brown was literally a hop, skip, and jump behind our campus. So I really say I got the best of both worlds and was able to accomplish and learn a lot about myself in those environments. I remember the first time I got on campus, I got tired of people asking me that I play football. And, you Bilbo, are you Bilbo? Because it's all over the technique and stuff. And, it was kind of like, dude, I play football, so what? But at Georgia Tech, you really stick out like a sore thumb.
Yes.
And so I remember I had this little running joke. I started off as an engineer. I used to tell all the people, I was like, yeah, I'm a chemical engineer and all this stuff like that. Just to get them off my back. It was funny. So, they start asking me questions. I was like, okay, they taking this serious. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But now I'm, so it was just really, got me out of my shell. And a lot of my good friends, they were, like you said, the Indians and the Iranians. And, one of my buddies I used to go to lab with all the time, Bubba Khan. I still remember this kid. He was one of the cool Indian guys that was, always trying to get styling tips and stuff like that. And asking me who my barber was and stuff. I'm like, bro, he can't cut your hair. Like stuff like that. Just still having those relationships. And, at the time, all of my friends in high school were either black or white, just black or white, and I think I had a Hawaiian friend that was at Keola. That was my only friend that, had an international component to himself. Hawaii is, one of the places. You know what I mean? But different places, different people, different languages, and that really opened my eyes up to what the world was. And, I always thank my mom for pushing me to challenge myself to make that decision and think outside of the box of just being an athlete,
More than an athlete.
More than that. And it's crazy because even then, and, 17, 18 years old, I look at where I am now as a 38-year-old male, leading the head of football and being partners with Rich Paul, and everybody sees LeBron. And, that's kind of the statement at Klutch more than an athlete. I was doing that back at 17 years old. So it was by God's design that me and Rich Paul connected, and it's crazy how when you really pay attention to his ways and his will, it's going to happen, whether it's on your time or his time, but it's going to happen, so it's just you paying attention to who he's allowing you to be, to connect with people that he wants you to be equally yoked with. So like I said, when I met with Rich Paul, it was like, I felt like I met him before. I met you somewhere before, and I've never met him before, but all the things he said, it was simply almost me looking in the mirror, hearing myself talk about the representation of athletes, not from a transactional standpoint, but a personal or passionate standpoint, So, what else? It ended up at Tech, and, I've had some hardships on the football field, and, left and played baseball and came back to Tech, and, went to the NFL, had an opportunity to play for a short time in the NFL, went through that process, went through the agent process, and, the rest is kind of history.
Man, you said something there in which you were talking about, in essence, understanding who you're supposed to be or who God's designed you to be. And you literally submit to that and walk in that purpose. And then the scenarios or the things start to lay out for you, or the path starts to get laid out in front of you. And you mentioned like the interaction with Rich Paul and how you felt like you had met him before based off of all of your experiences. And it's an interesting perspective to really even dive into it, because in essence, you had met him before, because all of your experiences leading up to that was designed for you all to meet, and vice versa. It would be the same for him. All of his experiences were building up so that when he met with Damarius Bilbo, it was like this kindredness was going to be there. And I heard a lady not long ago, she was talking and she was doing an interview, and she said something that was simple yet profound to me. Somebody came to meet with her, and she said, that person didn't come to me, they were sent to me. Like, and for me, from a person who literally lives with faith in my heart and lives my life in that particular, way, if you really make that small transition and start to realize that people don't come to you, they were sent to you, that always keeps the bigger picture in focus. And that also lets you know that all these steps are ordered, and it's not about your time, it's about the right time. And the right time is orchestrated by the person who orchestrates all of time itself, which is our creator.
Absolutely. Well put.
Yeah, man, dude, this. Ooh. And so you talked about meeting, and connecting with Rich Paul, but we have to take it back a little bit, because you, professional athlete, you played a little bit in the league, but then you also became a sports agent. How did that situation, or how did that come into existence?
It was more so when I was going through my process, I really paid attention to the people that was meeting with me. I would never talk about another man created by the same person I was created by. It's just fair.
Yes.
Who am I to judge? But it was just one thing I saw in all these guys, they were transactional. And let's be real, that's their job, to be transactional. So because of my experience of being a former athlete,
I always understand what athletes are going through, right?
Mm.
And so when I was going through my process, I really paid attention to the personalities, to the message of most of the men that was coming into my household. And most of them was the same. You get to the NFL, I'm going to take you through this pre-draft process. You get to the NFL, and, once you get on the football team, it's back to you playing football and back to me getting more clients, and you make it to that big contract, I'll be here. But it was really no purpose. It wasn't really any, hey, okay, what are you in my life for? What am I bringing you into my situation for outside of me needing an agent and you being one? So that's how I started defining myself. I said, look, if they can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing all these short, white guys coming into my house and didn't see anybody that looked like me. Therefore, I didn't really think they could represent me because they, and they didn't talk like me. They didn't identify with my single parent household, what I was going through. Like, everybody knew they could relate to my excitement of becoming a pro athlete, but they couldn't relate to my fears of not making it because they've never been in those shoes. So, I made my decision to go with someone that was based in Atlanta because I knew this is where I wanted to call home, regardless of where I go and where I get drafted. I went undrafted, went out to Arizona to the Cardinals. Then I went from Arizona to Dallas with the Cowboys, and then I ended up back in Atlanta in the span of 3 years. It was almost over before we started. And it wasn't that I couldn't keep playing. I just lost the passion for it. In college, I came in as a top quarterback. New coach came in, switched me. I started off with George O'Leary and Bill O'Brien as my quarterback coach, who was the Houston Texans head coach. They left. New coach Chan Gailey came in from the NFL. He didn't recruit me. We all know how recruiting goes. If the guy didn't win, he's probably not going to favor you.
That's right.
So the transfer portal was different then. It was a lot harder to transfer because they actually looked at credits and things like that. And, Georgia Tech credits just don't transfer anyway.
No.
You can't take Georgia Tech credits as a 3-year guy and think that all those credits are going to move to LSU or Mississippi State. It don't happen.
Nope.
So I looked at that. I met with I still remember Cedric, who's in the athletic department. And I sat down with Cedric and, dude, you'll basically be a freshman all over again. I'm like, wow. In the classroom, I was like, it ain't worth it. So I left school for a little time, came back, ended up adjusting to the wide receiver running back position. And, knew that at that point, because I've never played the position, it was going to be a tough role going uphill. Ended up starting my senior year with Calvin Johnson, Megatron, who's, I think he was recently put into the Hall of Fame. I talked to him the other day. I think he was recently made the finalist for the Hall of Fame ballot.
Awesome.
So it was a great experience being on the field with him and all of my teammates. And a lot of scouts start coming in talking about I had potential at wide receiver, big body guy, can run, the quarterback position. So I was just trying to get in how I fit in, man. So I was listening to all the agents, but none of them could really tell me what if it doesn't happen, what's the plan?
Hold on. Because going back to what you said earlier, you were always prepared for if it didn't work.
That's how I approach everything if it doesn't work.
Dude, and can I tell you, when you think about that, and I think about, again, like successful investors, hedge fund managers, right? Hedge. They're hedging their bet. They're hedging their investment. They have, a downside protection, right? So you're always thinking about if it doesn't work, what next, right? That's
if I'm cooking, if this junk tastes right, what am I going to eat?
Yes.
That's if I'm in the gym and, I'm saying somebody's on this machine and I know I got an hour to work out. What am I going to do to replace this machine if I walk in?
Brother, dude, you're dropping the gym right there. Fellas, pay attention to that gym. It's thinking about the what if. A lot of times we need to be in the moment. We need to be present in the moment. But that whole concept of what if, you have to prepare and plan for that what if scenario. And if you're calculated there and you prepare for the downside, you're not gambling, you're investing. See, gambling is just like, I'm just going to throw it to the wall and see what happens. No, fam. I'm calculating my potential downside.
Right.
Hear what he's saying there. It's very calculated.
It's a beautiful way to live, too, because it gives you options. It gives you an opportunity to think,
yes,
become creative, and not just look at one way of doing things. And it's no different than every successful person. Like, people like to make excuses, but they don't like to make opportunity. Sometimes you got to create the opportunity. I've heard so many people in the gym, like they'll literally sit around and wait for a machine
But I'm like, you can go do the same thing over here. Different machine, same muscle. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be the machine.
That's
so
it.
I was always prepared for what it did if it didn't work, and none of the agents really had a plan for that. It was like almost like a deer in the headlight when I asked them, okay, what if I don't get drafted? What happens next? I was like, they didn't know, and that didn't make them a bad person. That didn't make them a incompetent agent. It just made someone who couldn't relate. So from that moment, I chose the guy who was in Atlanta because I knew I wanted to be here, and I said, okay, I can keep close tabs on him. Ended up going undrafted to Arizona, and from that moment, I was getting calls in like the 4th, 5th round. Guys said, "Hey, we like you, we take you." My agents calling me and sat there for 7 rounds, didn't hear my name called, and wasn't educated on the process, didn't know what was going to happen. It was very, very discouraged because I didn't know about being an undrafted free agent. I thought my football career at that moment was over. So probably 3 hours I was depressed, and the next hour I was like, okay, what next? And then as soon as I thought of what next, that's when the team started calling. Hey, we want to sign you as an undrafted free agent. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but if I get to continue to play football, I'll do it, and end up signing with Arizona. Went out there, got to see the Larry Fitzgeralds and Anquan Bolden, just be in those guys' presence, learn how to be a pro. But even when I was out there, I still wasn't thinking about football. I was thinking about relationships and meeting people in the front office. And like, what's this undrafted guy asking me what my day-to-day is like?
Wow.
Because look, I'm coming in the hard way. I wasn't a first-round pick, wasn't a draft pick at all. I need to know what you do because I might be out of your job. You know what I'm saying? So
you're thinking about what might happen if this don't work out. Hedge. Come on.
Exactly. So it didn't work out. So I went to Dallas. Bill Parcells, one of the legendary Hall of Fame, Bill Parcells signed me. We got pretty close. Same thing. Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, I'm in their office. And it's so funny now being an agent, and when I deal with these teams, they all remember when I was a player. They was like, I remember you always ask all these damn questions.
There's a method to the madness, player.
See what the questions got me. I'm here now. What's up? So it was always, just prepared. So I really got into this industry not by, I didn't have a want to. It was more of a necessity. I feel that there wasn't people that looked like me that could represent who I was. And I always tell my clients, I am what I represent. I can relate. It's kind of like, do you have kids?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just black fathers now, brother.
Right, black fathers. So we can have a conversation about raising kids.
Yeah.
What things have been challenging in terms of whether it's a daughter or a son. And hey,
I got both. That's right.
I got both. I got a 12-year-old son and
a wife.
And a wife, right. So we can have those conversations because we can relate, right?
Yes.
So there's some things that you're going to experience that I may have not experienced and vice versa. So most of the agents, not saying that you have to play sports to be able to relate and represent, but you have to have something in common outside of a transaction.
Yes.
And when I kind of took that method, I started to find myself because I said agent. What is an agent? If I say real estate agent, their main job is to sell you a home and get a percentage, right? Insurance agent, same thing. Sell your insurance policy, get their percentage. Even a travel agent, sell your travel package, get their percentage. Doesn't make them a bad person, but their job is not to follow up with you and say, hey, how's that home? They don't. You live in the home now.
That's right. They're on to the next. Yeah.
They're on to the next transaction. They did their job. They got their percentage. They're on to the next. So, I never wanted to be called an agent. I thought that was very transactional. It wasn't really personal. So I just started to call myself representation, because I feel that as representation, I am one who relates. I can relate to what you're going through. So not only represent you as an athlete, because I was an athlete, but represent you as a professional, as a brand, as a business, as a black man, as a future entrepreneur or businessman, as a future husband, father, all those things holistically, I can look at and say, if you just want to be a football player, there are a million agents that can represent you, right? But if you truly look at yourself as a black man, a business, a brand, a community ambassador, a role model, a future father, husband, all of this stuff, there's somewhere down the line you're going to need me for that advice. You're going to need me to help represent you because the majority of my clients now grew up in single-parent households, don't know their fathers, are first-time fathers, themselves. So they don't really know how to navigate that space. and they're figuring out their self. So if there's, once that transaction is put away, that contract is negotiated, now I get to talk to them and really be able to build that equity of, hey, I trust this guy. He's done a good job on the football side, but here's the rest of my life. What does that mean? Yeah, because I aspire to be a husband and wife down the road, and we share these stories. So it's really being able to lead men. And again, I would never talk bad about an agent that doesn't take that approach, that doesn't take that philosophy to the business, because everybody has a way of doing things, doesn't make it right or wrong. That's just their way, right? So that's just how I got in the business. So I started to see, as I'm meeting with these baseball and football agents, I just started to see the same jokers with the same approach, just different names on their companies, right? And literally, it was almost like, is there a book that you guys are reading, the How to Be an Agent book that you guys are reading? Because
probably so.
The same.
Probably so.
Everybody came in with that little corny Jerry Maguire story. I'm like, bro, like at that time, I had never seen Jerry Maguire. I didn't know what they was talking about.
Yeah. Show me the money.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And so it just became like me and my mom really looked at each other and like, they all the same. Like, what do we do? And so we really start to pick, okay, he's in California, never going to be able to see him. You know what I'm saying? He's in New York, never going to be able to see. He's right here in Atlanta. He didn't have this. He was a smaller guy, but he's right here. I can see him. I keep my eyes on him if I want to stay here. So we really had a very meticulous approach in terms of selecting the agent. Once my NFL career was over, I started working with them because in our meeting, we had this system of how we were doing our meeting, and you would have thought I was going to be the number one pick overall, wow, because of how structured my meetings were. And from there, I selected him, and he made a comment to my mom. He said, once his career is over, no matter how long he plays, 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, I want to make sure he's working for me. Wow. And when he said that, I was like, well, I don't work for anybody. I work with you, but I ain't gonna work for you. And he was like, wow. I'm 21 years old at the time, 21 years old. So even when I was in the NFL, I was building relationships for him. Hey, talking about my agent, talking about the relationship we had, things like that. And I started to get veteran players switch over to his agent while I was in the league. So once my football career is over, I had already developed that passion for representing players and people, So I took him up on his offer. I started working with him, became his head of recruiting, director of recruiting. And literally in a short time, in 5 years, I had over 15 first-round picks and 40-plus clients. And literally, my first draft, I had 3 first-round picks. Next draft, I had 3. Next draft, I had 2 to 3. So every draft I worked with, we had 2 or more first-round picks. And
you were the head of recruiting. You were the one bringing these.
Yeah, I was the one that was building the relationships, going out, and it was crazy because he was a little Atlanta-based local agent. He was very good at what he did, but he didn't really expand outside of the Southeast. And I'm going to Nebraska getting Prince Amukamara. I'm going to Minnesota getting Eric Decker. Notre Dame getting Golden Tate, things like that. Northern Illinois is getting Larry English, guys like that. So they was like, man, this dude got a talent. He can really build relationships. And, that's where that whole representation came into play. He was an agent. I wasn't even an agent at the time. I was just a recruiter, what I'm saying? But I could relate in areas that he couldn't, So even though he was the agent, the transactional guy, he can never do what I can do in terms of relating.
Hold on. See, you're talking about, so we talked about hedging, the downside protection or thinking about it. Now you're talking about leverage, right? Where you understand where your gifts and your talents lie, where you can step in and be one of the world's best. So now you have leverage. So you started off hedging the bottom, making sure that, hey, if something don't work, where am I going to go next? Right. Now you started to identify your greatness. And you're like, yo, as a recruiter, as the one building the relationships, as the one bringing in all of these guys, I got a talent that basically puts me at the top tier of folks that are in this particular profession. Fellas, pay attention to that. Yeah. Understand where your gifts lie.
I understand where your gifts lie, and that's it. And as good as he was at the time, it was always that salesman feel, And that a lot of this business is sell. And that's why I don't see, if I turn myself into a salesman, I could possibly sign every client I go after. But there's not a salesman bone in my body. I don't have that component to where I could tell a guy what he wants to hear to get what I want. You know what I'm saying? I don't have that in me. You know, so in this business, a lot of these kids want to hear what they want to hear. You know what I'm saying? They want to hear the bells and whistles. They want you to dress it up in the shiny, you know, put the rims on it. And it's not like that. You know, this is a tough process. And, you know, but when so many people are doing it like this, and I'm over here, to some guys, you stand out, but to some guys, you're different, and that's not good. You know, I want to go over here, you know? So the clients I have, you know, it's a situation where they want to be more than athletes. They truly do. They see the value because they know, let's be honest, not one of these agents are going to physically play for me, right? They're not going to play for me.
No.
So what value are they adding? You know, what value are they adding to my livelihood? On the field, obviously, they have to be able to do the job, but you can look at certain people's client base and know that they can do the job. I don't have Chase Young and Jarvis Landry and Alvin Kamara and Jeff Okuda and Mekhi Becton. I don't have all these top players because I can't do the job. You know, I've done major contracts. What added value am I bringing to you as a Black man? And
hold on, dude. Because again, you're dropping the gem. What added value am I bringing to you as a Black man? See, this is a beautiful time to be alive. I know there are challenges going on socioeconomically and politically and all of that stuff. There are challenges going on, but this is also a very beautiful time to be alive because we're now in a place where it is a value prop to say I am a Black man.
Right.
That's actually a value proposition. Hey, I am a Black man and I understand you. And it's okay to say that. For so long, we ran from that. We tried to, like you mentioned, fit into the bubble or follow the script of what everybody else is doing. Oh, Jerry Maguire, I got to follow this script and dress this way and say this. No. Right. This is who I am. Authenticity is the new wave. And hopefully that's the wave to stay. But regardless of whether it's here to stay, you're here to stay operating within that authenticity, which is going to continuously lead to your success because those that get it. And those are the ones that you want to get it because those are the ones you're connected to.
Absolutely. Right.
Golly, that's, man, I'm going to tell you, like, and what's interesting about it, when I said the word authenticity, it goes back to what you talk about in your story of I am who you are. Basically, I am what you represent. You are it. Like you're showing them that I'm a reflection of what it is you're doing and what it is you're going to do. I'm not going to play it for you, but the reality is I am that reflection. So I get you and I understand you. And it's more than a transaction. This thing is bigger than the field. And that's ultimately what it's all about.
It becomes a situation where, you know, as Black men, as athletes, as people, we all are going in the same direction, right?
Yes.
You know, we all are starting somewhere and we're ending somewhere, you know, and if I could walk a certain distance and then hand it off to you, and let's say me handing that off, I'm handing knowledge on, I'm handing some type of expertise, I'm handing some kind of experience off to you. That's ultimately what it is. You know, I'm shielding them by the education and empowering them not to make the same mistakes or to be aware. For instance, I always tell all my clients, you know, how are you going to these universities for 3-4 years? Because if you're in the NFL, a high draft pick, you probably were the superstar at your college, right? Why are you going to the NFL? Because you selected that college, right? You chose to go to Ohio State or Alabama. That was a choice. When you get drafted, that's not a choice. That team is calling you. That's why you see so many people in tears because they didn't know the team was going to call. You know, Chase didn't know he was going to Washington. Jeff didn't know he was going to Detroit. You know, Jarvis didn't know he was going to Miami. That's why there's so much built up excitement because they don't know where they're going. In terms of college, hey, I got this list of 4 top schools and I'm going to choose. It's my choice. So in making that choice, you have a little more invested in that university because you chose over all the colleges you could have went to, you chose to go there, right? So with that being said, these teams that don't choose you, they don't have that built up investment in you. It's all about production. You know what I'm saying? When they see you stop producing, they can go choose somebody else.
Absolutely.
Right. So why are you going to these universities that you chose to go to and leaving the resources behind once you go to the NFL? You got to dig into these alumni, dig into these, you know, these endowments, these successful people before you, build these relationships because you, again, made that choice to go to that university. So those relationships are laid up for you to slam dunk. That's a quick pass to you to say, look, me, Chase Young, I chose Ohio State. So all that Ohio State has to offer in terms of business and resources, alumni, endowments, that is mine.
when I get here, you know.
But,
So
but check this out though. See, you also hit on something there, and you also got to strike while the iron's hot, right? So while you have the juice and the leverage and the relationships, and while everybody wants to build a relationship with you and have you come speak at their this and talk to this person, while you have that, that's the time to build those relationships. 20 years from now, does that leverage still lie? Does that leverage still sit there?
And it doesn't, because there's always someone after you.
Yes.
People don't understand the draft, the whole NFL system, because you think of right now, as hot as that Justin Jefferson kid is, a wide receiver from Minnesota.
Yes.
He should probably win the rookie of the year on the offensive side of the ball. You know, we've seen Odell Beckham.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Calvin Johnson. We've seen Julio Jones.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Terrell Owens. We've seen Jerry Rice. We've seen Ben Swan. You know,
Mm-hmm.
every year the draft is set up for you to be replaced.
Yes. Woo!
that's it. That's all it is. Is your day is going to come. And that's why I tell my guys, I represent you with the end in mind, knowing that the end is coming. It's coming. I don't want you to focus on it, but it's coming.
Dude,
you know, I want you to be prepared for it.
Check this out. I'm going to throw something at you. Like, so we're recording this now, and an episode that's released prior to this one was episode 200. And one of the things that I talk about in episode 200 is the concept of life is an escalator, not an elevator. Right. So there's a difference. So with an elevator, you can push a button, right? You can push a button to go to the level you want to go to. You can get off, you can stay on it. You can ride the elevator up and down as much as you want. There's no reason that you have to get off. There's nothing forcing you off. When you get on an escalator, that bad boy is running continuously, right? And when you get to the next level, and usually on an escalator, there's somebody behind you and somebody in front of you, right? So when you get to the top of the escalator, you can't just stand there. You got to get off. Because if you don't get off, there's somebody coming behind you that's going to push you out of the way. Right. And life is like that. So whether you're talking sports, whether you're talking business, I mean, truthfully, when we think about the cycle of life, as we grow and as we age, and at some point we're all not going to be here, we're going to hit the next level and we're going to be gone. There's nothing we can do to stop that. So what are you doing while you're on that step, on that escalator that's going up higher to the next level?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Great analogy. Yeah.
Dude, like, again, your story is amazing. Now, the other part to it is a lot of times when people think about sports and representation and all, they think that, you have to be a lawyer and all of that. So did you end up going to law school, or was that something, or how did you navigate that part of it with like contract stuff? Like, how did you get yourself there if you didn't go to law school?
Yeah, with the CBA, it's completely different because that governs the contracts and governs agent, the collective bargaining agreement. So you have to get certified through the NFLPA. Now, a lot of agents are attorneys. A lot of them do have master's degrees and business degrees and stuff, which I do. But at the time I got certified, I did not.
Okay.
So I got in because I worked with another agency for 7+ years, 6+ years, whatever. So I got in on a special admission, basically. So because I had to negotiate it as an unlicensed guy, they have this rule that says if you played in the league and you negotiated 6 years prior to or 6 years after, then you can go and sit for the exam. And if you pass the exam, now you are a certified agent, right? So those are the regulations by the NFL. So you don't have to go to law school, because you think of it, even if I go to law school, there was a specialty. Well, what was my law? You can do sports law, but you still got to pass the CBA. You know what I'm saying? Where you got to pass the bar. The bar doesn't certify you to negotiate contracts. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you have to get certified in each state. You got to take the bar in each state, because there's certain laws, regulations, and
absolutely
things in the state. The CBA is the say all be all amongst agents. So it doesn't matter if you're an agent. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're an attorney. It doesn't matter if you have a master's degree, postgraduate degree, or whatever. You still have to be able to sit and take the CBA and get certified there, pass that exam.
Wow. Again, this, where you bring your value prop. This is your story. So your story, basically playing in the league and doing your thing for 6 years, allowed you to qualify. And again, you didn't have to follow the same path that a lot of the other people feel like they have to follow to get to where it is you're getting. Because again, this is the timing that's supposed to happen, because this is your story. This is your journey. This is your authentic walk. You're just choosing to lean into that and be all that you were designed to be. So that's an amazing, amazing fact. Now, brother, I'm not going to keep you all day, man. I could talk to you all day because your story is just like crazy amazing to me, man. But with your journey and these experiences that you've had and, the amazing ups and the lessons you learned and all of that, how have all of these things come full circle to impact you as a father, specifically a Black father?
Well, my son was born. I was 25 when my son was born. So blessed to have that college degree, played in the NFL a little bit. Wasn't a superstar. I was just a guy on and off the roster, practice squad, back and forth. But I think I had gotten to the stage to where I was ready to kind of lead, not be selfish and, kind of have my experiences built up. I think everything I've been through, as a father, it's a task every day.
Yes.
Even though that is your seed, that is your son or daughter, they're still their own people.
Yes.
They still live in a different world. They still are exposed to different things that we were exposed to or weren't exposed to at our age coming up. Truth be told, I like to move his ass down to Mississippi back to the country and raise him that way.
Yes, sir.
I feel like, because in today's world, you can't just let your kid run outside. And we used to wake up 7, 8 o'clock and be gone to 5, 6 o'clock.
Yep. Till the street lights come on. Yep.
No cell phones, no anything. And it wasn't a lot in the world back then that just scared people. It's like everywhere you go now, whether it be, the stuff you saw in Washington with, for all I know, my son would be walking down the street and some crazy white guy see him or that man, a crazy Black guy. We don't know, just people. So, I think everything I've experienced has kind of prepared me to number one, have my son think in terms of what if things don't work, because people always say the kids these days I actually had this conversation with my buddy the other day. We were talking and he was like, man, these kids out here are dangerous, because he was at a gas station and pumping gas and some kid walked up to him, and you probably heard about the Atlanta Water Boys and all these stuff.
Yeah, I heard about that.
He walked up to him and asked him for some money, and he's like, I ain't got no money on me, man. Kid just went off on him. So I'd shoot you. He's like, you gonna shoot me because I ain't give you my money? Like, kid, like, don't say nothing back to me, dude. And we got into that, and my dude's a big guy. He's a big guy. And the kid had to be, he said, about 15, 16 years old. And I told him, I said, I think these kids are more dangerous because they're not coming up. They didn't come. There's no R&B. There's no good music. They all same type of music. What I'm saying? Just that drill music. That stuff is just messing them up and mentally. You know what I'm saying? So I think I've been afforded the opportunity to really raise my son in a situation to where he gets to have those experiences. It's not about just working, to pay bills. It'll be working for a passion, for a purpose, and really get him in the mindset of thinking that, if it doesn't work here, and helping him build his passions and ultimately his purpose in life, and I mean, we read every night, we're reading a book right now, Chop Wood, Carry Water, and we always read that book and then we'll read a Bible story, and it's being able to give him that guidance, because again, I grew up not seeing a family structure, not seeing a father figure. So most of the stuff I had to figure out, I had to figure out from other people, from other households, from what I saw, from TV.
Real talk.
Good Times and the Cosby's and things like that. That's how we were raised as single parents in the single parent household. So, my wife has been great. She's the educator in the household in terms of the books and stuff like that. She's on it. She actually she builds hotels for one of the top hospitality design firms in the world, Hirsch-Bettner. She's been there for 15, 16 years or whatever, but she's great, in that aspect. But just as a man, I still got a lot to learn, still got a lot that I'm learning, because my son's about to be a teenager next year. He'll be a teenager this year, May. And, it's scary because he's going to hit that mark where he's going to have to figure out things his own way. And, sometimes when you let a child go and you have to, it's not going to be the picture perfect scenario. It's going to be, you're going to be fearful when they start driving. You're going to be fearful when they start dating. You're going to be fearful when they go off to college. And, it's that constant fear that is replaced by faith. You know what I'm saying? Just like they say, at least put that foundation under him. So when you give him to the world, he'll know how he's got it. You know, I'm like, my mom used to always tell me, I used to think she was crazy until I became a parent. I'm your temporary parent.
Ooh, dude, that's deep.
No, it's deep, but it's crazy when you're 12 years old and your mom telling you she's your temporary parent. I'm like, damn, where my real parents at? Damn,
dude, but dude, check this out. I did an episode probably about a year ago, and the title of it was "Your Kids Are a 20-Year Long-Term Lease."
Oh wow.
If you really stop and you think about it, your kids are roughly, give or take a couple of years, depending on their development, what they do, they're roughly a 20-year long-term lease. Because at that point, yes, you're still their parent. You're going to be a parent to them until the day that you're no longer here, but your relationship changes. So you're no longer able to tell them what to do, when to show up, how to be there, what you need to do. You lose that ability around that 20-year-old period, right? At that point, you become an advisor. You become representation, not to your clients, but to your kids. And they become, they're still your children, but it's like talking to your peer. Mm-hmm. So to that point, your kids in essence are a 20-year long-term lease. If you really are honest and think about it.
Right. You're right. I like that. Another good analogy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, again, my mom just used to give me so much stuff. Like they say, you'll never understand until you become a parent.
Yes.
You're raising the kid, but they're going to have their own group of friends, their own, type of people they like and they want to hang around. And you can guide them, but you can't make the decision for them. And that's the scariest thing of being a parent, just knowing that, because I've had friends that were raised in 2-parent household, just was all messed up.
Yep.
And whether it was something they saw, where they was treated, and they could have come from just a great structure and just something went wrong, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's the scary part of having a child and now having a daughter. Mm-hmm. Son's very intelligent. He's going to be a big kid. He's about 5'8", 5'9", now 12 years old. Mm-hmm. Great athlete. And that's why I try to keep him. He's a soccer and baseball player. Try to keep him in sports just so, he's not a troublesome kid. But so me and my wife is talking about the other day just how innocent he is. Mm-hmm. And at some point that innocence is gonna be stripped from him. The world has a way of, making you grow up real fast. So I want to make sure, because he doesn't have to, he keeps that innocence as long as possible. Whether, I don't care if he's 19, 20, still relying on us. You know what I'm saying? I want him to have that because, most of the kids I come in contact with, they had to grow up at 14, 15. And it's a part of them that got lost because they felt they had to grow. I don't want my son to feel like he has to grow up. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, hold on. See, you're jumping into something that is so deep and powerful, because there was a study that came out not too long ago, and it was talking about young girls. They're talking about how young Black girls were viewed as being more mature than their counterpart. And so basically what they were saying is they think the young Black girls were older than the other little girls. So they basically stripped some of that innocence away from them earlier than they did other demographics. The same thing aligns with the Black boys. So again, my little boy is 7, my little girl is 9. Right now he's a cute little kid. But at some point, there are going to be people who view him as a threat because he's now big. Now he has muscles. He got a little mustache, whatever. Things are going to change a little bit. He's no longer that cute little kid. Things change. But I think that comes back to the importance of us as Black men, as Black fathers, not just raising our kids, but also being vocal in the community and start to create this critical mass of us. Because the more of us that are out there, I can see that little 14-year-old brother and say, like, I ain't scared of him. That was me. You know what I'm saying? I can see that little, that girl and say, like, yeah, she's 10. She's not a grown woman. I don't care how developed she is, because she's whatever. She's still 10. She's still a little girl. It's like we have to get more of us out there, more of us that are vocal to really set the stage and create this critical mass so that there's an environment. And so our kids don't have to grow up so early. So that our kids don't feel the need to, because again, that's the world. And the world, I'm using air quotes here, that you're talking about is typically not our world, because not our world doesn't, and goes back to, like you mentioned, with the representation coming into your house, they didn't identify with you. So they can't connect with you culturally. They couldn't connect with your experience. Whereas you and I can connect because that's us. So I'm going to give them that freedom and flexibility. Chris Rock said something a long time ago. He was doing a comedy special, and he said something like, you know what? I want the ability to fail and it not be fatal. I was just like, bruh, that is deep, because ultimately that's what it is. I want us to be able to play outside and you're 13, 14, 15. I don't care if you got a mustache. Go out, climb a tree. You know what I'm saying? And it's not looking wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm from the country too. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. So it's just like, so you're saying something that's so powerful, but I think part of that is on us to encourage our counterparts to be more, like you say, more than an athlete. Okay, be more than just a father of your own. We got to be fathers in the community. We got to be vocal in the community. We got to create this critical mass so that our babies have that freedom and flexibility to grow up normally.
That's the village you're talking about.
That's man. It takes a village to raise a child, man. But it takes a village for us to be who we are. I can't do this by myself. You can't do this by yourself. What kind of representation would you be as a representation of one?
But I think with that being said, so many people are just drained by the day-to-day struggles.
Yes.
You know, it becomes, you go in a protective mode, just taking care of your own. You know what I'm saying? What we don't understand, again, is going back. All this stuff just circles. It makes a full 180. It's that whole, if you are looking at things that we are all created for his purpose, created by the same person to serve, then you don't just serve. When you're a waiter at a restaurant, you don't just serve one person at home. You serve people that walk in. You know what I'm saying? And if you take that servant mindset, then I can see a kid in need and help him, whether he's my child or not, because I'm serving. You know, so yeah, I mean, we're the house where, you know, a lot of kids are always at our house. And, you know, I always tell my son, like, you're going to come in contact with bullies. People are going to try you, you know, that dude has a story. He has a reason. That's right. So I'm the type where befriend the bully. You know what I'm saying? Invite him over to the crib. Maybe he needed some love. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he don't like you because you got new shoes and he don't. You know, invite him over. What you need, bro. You don't have to do, because that one gesture can change his life, you know? So it's things like that to where I'm trying to show my son that, you know, it's not always a fight in life. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's a simple conversation, you know what I'm saying? And I think some of these kids they're so angry at just everything. They don't have a place of peace. They don't really know what being a child is, because they just watch everything and they're growing up so fast. I remember the whole talk about my son having an IG page or just media, you know, and it's just, that stuff alone just exposes you to so much. It gives you everything that you don't need instantly, you know? It's one of those things that, you know, do you shield them from the world that is out there, or do you spoon feed it to them? Or do you just give it all to them in large doses and then pull back? You know, it's always a struggle. But I think the way I was raised, and, you know, I don't have any regrets. Obviously, sometimes I look back, and it's funny because my father has recently started reaching out to me on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? He hit me up with the happy birthday, the Merry Christmas, and it came for a reason. My brother actually had a heart attack, my younger brother, this year. Yeah, and he was on life support for 4 days.
How is he okay?
Good now. Yeah, he's good now.
Okay, man, that's a blessing, man.
It was crazy, but literally was having 3 to 5 seizures every other hour. You know what I'm saying? And they had to fly him out to Emory, you know, to another hospital and put him on life support. And my mom actually had to reach out to my dad, you know, and they came to us like Friday morning talking about he didn't have any gag reflexes. You know, nothing was working. And then we had to make a decision, take him off life support. And, you know, she reached out to my dad and they decided not to. And literally, you know, 24 hours later, he's moving his toes and arms and, you know, just was home next week. We were like, what the hell? But he ended up having surgery, has a defibrillator placed in. He has AFib. So something about AFib that his heart just went crazy, you know. So he's doing good now. He's doing good. He actually just had twin boys. Yeah. She found out she was pregnant like after that, you know.
Wow.
So we both grew up. We got the same father, you know. Me and my brother, we got the same father. My older sister has a different father. But just us being, you know, seeing the sacrifice that my mom made, and it was never a moment that we didn't know we didn't feel like we didn't have a father because of the lessons that she, you know, kind of left us with, you know. obviously we'll go to like baseball games and we'll hear fathers in the stands and stuff like that. But, you know, again, growing up in the country, we really grew up in a village.
That's right.
We had people to where, yeah, that's Travis's dad, that's Gary's dad, you know, that's Kid's dad, but he just like my pops too. He always cool with me. He just don't live in the house with me. You know what I'm saying? If he saw me doing something wrong, he was gonna call me out on it. I call my mom before I get home. You know, so we had that growing up. And I'll go right back around their house the next day and, you know, hey, you know, I called your mom. Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, I got my ass beat, but appreciate it. I shouldn't have been doing that, you know. So that's how I grew up, you know, and me and my wife have kind of taken that same approach. We have a group of, you know, friends, my attorney, Von DeBose, who is probably one of the most profound guys that I've ever met in terms of just the theory. He approaches everything from a theory mindset. Like he has all these different, it's almost like every time he speaks, he's speaking in parables. He has everything. So, you know, his son and my son are real good friends, and his wife and my wife are real good friends. Me and him are real good friends. Met on a business relationship. He's my attorney. And then we just built from there. You know, we got married in Italy at 18, and they were one of the families that came out with us. Another family. So we've surrounded, you know, our family with other good families.
Yes.
So when my son goes over there, his son comes over here, you know, we know that they're going to be held to the same standards as if we were there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what it truly takes to raise these guys. So again, even though I'm raising my son, I'm not doing it alone. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing it, you know, I know the same male figures that are in his life, whether it be Mark, whether it be Vaughn, whether it be this coach or that coach, you know what I'm saying? They're all giving my son the same thing, you know? So, I mean, it's again, it doesn't remove that fear that you have of the world. But again, one of my favorite Bible verses is, you know, like the Lord said, you know, I've overcome the world, you know, so just try to have faith in him and make sure that, you know, every time you let your child go, you're not truly letting them go because God is with them. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my parental approach, is just, you know, continue to feed myself with, you know, this faith and this belief that, you know, hey, you've put enough in him and you've allowed him to know who God is, depend on God, to trust God, to let God show you, and everything will work out for the best. And that's how my grandma, like I said, goes back to the Bobby Jones gospel. You know? I'm seeing my grandma and I'm like, this lady crazy. You know? Like, what is she doing? And then again, it's seeing it at that age and that perspective, and then being, you know, in your 30s and hearing that spirit and seeing that effect that reading something in the Bible when it really touches you has on you. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I'm trying to just put that, instill that in my son and my daughter. She's not even 2 yet. She'll be 2 in May. Both of my kids were born in May. It's crazy. Me and my wife met in May, and both my kids were born in May. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow. So
just really trying to put that in them to make sure that, you know, hey, we are your temporary parents. You know, prepare them, you know, to, hey, I'm not going to always be here.
That's it.
Again, hedging that you know, this father is stronger than who I am as your father. So
come on.
That's just how I approach it, man. And just, you know, continue to learn from my mistakes, you know, and, you know, now that he's 13, you can't whoop him. He's about to be a teenager. You got to sit and talk to him, you know, and like, hey, why did you do that? Why did you make that mistake? You know, what were you thinking? You know, really just help him navigate and not feel like you always got to go outside his head and do something wrong, because he's going to take that to the world. You know,
that's right.
As I learned to solve problems, and when I used to get in trouble, my dad used to whoop me. So me and you got a problem, I'm gonna whoop you. Now I don't work like that in the world, you know. So just every day finding out different things. That's kind of how I approach it.
Man, every day you're gonna find out different things, and every opportunity is a lesson, right? This is a classroom. We're living in this classroom, right? And every interaction is a lesson. Every interaction is a class. And, you know, if you continue to approach it that way, man, you're gonna have success. And there's no guarantee. Right? There's no guarantee we can do everything right. There's no guarantee for the success or the outcome to be that way, but there's just an increased probability of it. And that's what this thing is all about. All we're doing with our actions is we're helping to increase the probability of success. There's no guarantee for success. We're just helping to increase the probability of it. And like you mentioned before, as long as you keep your faith in the Lord and you allow him to control your thoughts. I have this thing, I say spiritual conviction leads to mental commitment. Mental commitment leads to taking action. So as long as you're spiritually convicted in how you operate and you allow that to influence your mind dictates the actions that you take. And at that point, you can let things go because you know that, hey, I've done my part and I'm being led by who I need to be led by. I can let go. I can wash my hands off the wheel, feet on the gas and the brake. You dig?
Absolutely.
That's what's up. Well, man, like I said, I could sit down and rap. We might have to do this again. I could sit down and rap with you all day, man. I'm loving this, man.
Absolutely. We'll definitely chop it up outside of this podcast. I appreciate the opportunity and, just the message you're sending and what you have going on. Very powerful. We need to hear more of this. We need to empower more of us, and just like you said, really build that community of Black men that are, not just raising our own, but raising up other Black men,
Come on.
So I appreciate the opportunity, the message, the gems you left me with, and just giving me a chance to speak on your platform.
That's what's up, my brother. Well, fellas, look, we done had Damarius Bilbo. This brother's a husband, a father. He's head of football with Klutch Sports. He's doing the doggone thing. If you just Google Damarius Bilbo, you're going to see all kind of stuff. The brother's doing the doggone thing. And he was here sharing with us. And he's also a testament of social proof of what's possible. So when you see his story, if you reach out to him, you connect with him, you let him know that, man, this thing really has impacted your life and it's going to allow you or cause you to think about something a little bit different and to move forward and be the best version of yourself. So, brother, I salute you and thank you for hanging out with us on Black Fathers Now. Fellas, make sure to subscribe, share this thing out. And as always, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace. Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.